Okay, we are rolling. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Derby City Fandom Podcast. My name is Kenny. Again, joined by Jake and Colin. Welcome back, as always, guys.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm excited on this lovely day.
Hey, everybody.
So, today we are actually going to be talking about She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
Attorney at law. So, do you two fine gentlemen have any reference point about what She-Hulk is involved with, her creation story, comic book wise at all?
A little bit. Very little. I have some knowledge, but I'm sure you're probably the subject matter expert, Kenny.
You know what? I like your way of thinking. Well, call me that. So, Colin, I feel like we would be doing everybody a disservice if we didn't start out with the hard numbers.
The hard numbers. All right, let's get into it. We got Rotten Tomatoes with a high score of 87%.
Really?
No way.
87% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. And
Critical
then,
or audience?
what?
Is that the critical score?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No way.
87%. But IMDb has that a 4.9 out of 10. And that's kind of where I'm at with the show as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a coin flip.
Some episodes are hit or miss, so
Fair
that being said, let's get straight into it. Kenny, I'll let you start us off, man.
Okay, so She-Hulk has her origins back in 1980s. Art done by John Buscema. I'm probably butchering that name. Now, like any other Hulk, powers basically granted through gamma radiation. In this particular instance, it is also through a blood transfusion. So it's entirely Bruce's fault. Now, the circumstances are a bit different.
Now, before you get all too crazy about this, why don't you give us a little brief synopsis about She-Hulk in general? How did she get her powers? And why should anyone even give a shit about this particular podcast and She-Hulk in general?
Okay, so the original reason she got her powers is that while her family was driving along, they basically get jumped by a crime syndicate, and which kills her parents. This is right around the time that Bruce had happened to more or less be visiting to, be like, hey, I'm the Hulk. This is what we do. And Jennifer gets critically injured and needs a blood transfusion. Now, as coincidence would have it, they share blood types so they can do the blood transfusion. And through that, that's how she gets her powers. Now, I think what makes the connection between the comics and the show in particular is one particular power that she has, which I feel like is going to end up being the main gripe, and we'll delve into it a little bit more. But she is the first one to really break the fourth wall in the comics. She does that 10 years before Deadpool.
Oh, okay, that's what I was about to say, is Deadpool.
Yes, he is 91, I do believe, while She-Hulk is just 1980. So other than that, the kind of general idea behind She-Hulk is that she is a combination of brains and brawn, originally kind of penned to be kind of a comparison to Wonder Woman, according to a previous writer, Peter Davids. I believe that is the guy. But I think that's probably going to be a point we get into, is how kind of heavily they rely on this fourth wall breaking. Other than that, other noticeable things, she has the kind of standard Hulk powers, super strength, able to absorb radiation, has a general healing factor. Other notable things is that she joins Iron Man's side in the Civil War arc. She is in charge of policing the superpowers. like on that side of things, she eventually becomes an Avenger as well as a member of the Fantastic Four, which is kind of odd to think about. But she becomes a member of the Fantastic Four after the Thing kind of decides to do his own thing in that storyline. So that's just kind of a very brief synopsis over the comic book stuff. Now, Colin,
Yeah.
I know you got some points. Do
Now,
any of
in the show, we see Jennifer in the car with Bruce, and they're going for a cruise. I forget where they're going at the time, but then they get in a car wreck. In the show, they get in a car wreck because a spaceship or a ship comes down and kind of interferes with their trajectory, if you will, and they basically somehow during the wreckage he gets his blood in her cut, and so that's how she turns into She-Hulk. But like you said in the comic book, that's not the
It's a
case.
blood transfusion. It's a very crude one, but close enough, right?
Yeah, so I find that it's a turn off for me. If they're not gonna do what's in the comics, then what the hell's the point of the show? And that can be said with a lot of the Marvel series and movies as well. But anyway, whatever, it's fine. But then, she turns into Hulk and trains with Bruce in South America for a while.
Mexico.
Mexico,
Close
I
enough.
stand corrected. Whatever, it doesn't matter. And then they train up in a lab that was built by Bruce and Tony Stark years before, I guess. And she doesn't really get into the whole training thing at first, but then she starts realizing what it can do and what she can do, and maybe she's a little bit stronger than Hulk, maybe.
So I guess that's another comic book point that I probably should have mentioned, but her strength is different than the Hulk's. So She-Hulk's strength is directly proportional to whatever strength she has as a human. So if the human version, if Jennifer gets stronger, then it gets like exponentially like multiplied when she becomes a She-Hulk. So that's one of the things. Now, you're never going to find a character in Marvel that is stronger than the Hulk. He's able to pick up Mjolnir just out of brute force. And the thing weighs as much as a baby star. So,
Yeah. And another thing, I don't really understand why she's able to do this in the show. Maybe it's different in the comics, but how is it possible that she can pretty much morph back into a human? Where, if you look at Hulk, only way to really get Bruce back into Bruce's body is to knock the Hulk out.
or calm him down.
Or
Severely.
the serenading they did in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But she's able to go from a freaking 6 foot, 7 foot person into an average female size like that. Why? How?
So there's a couple things there. So in the show, they just play it up to be that while Jennifer and Bruce are genetically similar, being, related, they're different in the sense that one's male, one's female, and that's kind of what they chalk it up to in the show. Now, in the comics, it's a bit different. She has the same issue. She doesn't just transform at first willingly. It's very much emotional based how the Hulk is. Now, eventually, in one of the Hulk comic lines back in 2011, he kind of does some magical nonsense that allows Jennifer to kind of transform back and forth without much effort.
magical nonsense? What the hell do you mean by that?
Because the thing that allows him to do it is called the wishing machine.
I've never heard that.
Most people have
Elaborate.
not, probably.
Elaborate.
So in I think it is the Incredible Hulk 2011 line, with the help of Doctor Strange and a couple of other people, there's a machine that is basically responsible for a lot of bad things. By the end of the series, they're fighting off like some gamma radiation based dragon, and they just stomp the ever living hell out of it. I can probably find a photo, but that would take a second. But yeah, it ends up being kind of weird in that regard.
Okay. Let's continue on.
So,
Colin, it sounds like you almost didn't enjoy the first episode. So Jennifer Walters and Bruce Banner, that whole interaction between the two characters.
No, I was intrigued by the first episode and kind of this half of the second episode, but then I kind of just got put off. Like, I hate to say it, but it's definitely directed towards a female audience, I feel like. So, like, I mean, it is what it is. But then once Abomination got introduced, that really kind of just grinded my gears.
really? Did you get the line where they said that they made up and how they're totally different people now?
Yes. Okay.
And I was just, I giggled
Abomination,
because
that was all Edward Norton.
Edward Norton.
That was
was
all
his
Edward
film.
Norton. That was his timeline, and then somehow it's Bruce
It
freaking
was
Banner
Mark
or
Ruffalo now.
Mark Ruffalo. Shit, Buffalo.
Not quite.
Whatever.
But
Anyway, I mean, yeah, I know they bring it up in the show, and it's like, haha, I'm funny.
it's
but
a
like,
nod.
come the fuck on. Like, okay, so like Marvel came out and was saying like this is strictly like a sitcom, and it's supposed to be like some humor here and there, and that's kind of
Yes.
what I'm getting, like, especially like with Thor. Those movies were supposed to be like a sitcom kind of basically, and I don't know, I don't find it funny. And I'm just like, what?
So I do have a point to add to that.
Please.
They do say that She-Hulk Attorney at Law is going to be the final television series of Phase 4 for the MCU. So,
Okay, there's like 20 more phases, so lovely.
right. But those aren't television, right?
Yet.
But
We don't know.
so I think that's probably why, because even in one of the episodes, one of the fourth wall breaks is that they admit that this is going to be a mostly self-contained like wedding episode that has like almost no influence.
Is the fourth wall, I would assume in the comic books, it's pretty significant.
Yes and no. They don't really play with it too much because
Like, is there more to it? I feel like I should have more interest in the fourth wall breaks in this show, but I really don't give a shit about it. Like, it's fun to watch. I don't know, I feel like Deadpool did a better job for me of doing the fourth wall breaks, but I feel like I should care more. Like, maybe there's something more down the line with the fourth wall breaks, but it's not doing it for me.
that's fair. The fourth wall breaks so far have all seemed to have been just kind of like nods at the series as a whole, I suppose. Like just like with her like bringing up Wong.
I think that's what's ironic is she makes
and all of them.
she cracks jokes about that, like, oh no, you guys want to see Wong, but then like I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, I do. I don't know. My favorite parts of the series have been the cameos, like when Bruce Banner was there and Wong. It's like, I hate to say it, I think I agree with Colin. It's definitely not toward the middle-aged male audience, I would say, but
The younger female audience. And
is
anytime
fine, I
that
have
Wong
nothing
is
against
brought up and when Bruce is in it, like all previous characters that we have seen in the Marvel realm of things we're like, oh hell yeah, okay, I like this character. I've seen him in movies before, and now he's in this. Great, I feel yeah, let's go. But
You're
as
not a
soon as they are off the screen and we're just left with Jennifer and the She-Hulk, that whole thing with her selling products under She-Hulk.
Oh, Titanium?
Yeah.
Who the fuck cares?
Some of the plots I don't really give a fuck about. Although I do enjoy the whole attorney at law spin of it all. I think that was a huge aspect for me was
Yeah.
how the two worlds collide. You have all these superheroes, but then you have the real world, like schmucks like us three, just normal human beings. It's like, how does that all fit together? So I am enjoying to see how, from the legal side, how this is all fitting together. But I agree with you, Colin, that some of these plot lines, I'm like, I really just don't give a fuck.
Well, that is all fair. So that's kind of one of the, I guess, good things about She-Hulk as a character is that she's a bit more relatable in the sense that she's the only one that technically has an actual job.
Right. And she's single. And the whole dating app situation
That's
or
very
scenario,
real, right?
it's
It
just like,
seems
yeah,
very
they're
real.
applying her to the real world. And I get that. I respect that. But,
I watched Marvel to escape the real world.
right.
That's fair.
Right.
That is
And
fair.
yeah, like I kind of find it like I get where she's coming from, like her normal self. She's not getting very many likes on the dating app, but as soon as she takes a selfie of her and puts on the dating app as She-Hulk, she gets all kinds of likes. She gets this one dude, they have a real connection, and then it just falls apart because the next morning he sees her as a normal person and he's just like, you're not very attractive.
I must say, we're about midway through the season, and I still, every single time I see an episode, I'm like, great, is this the episode that Daredevil's going to show up? And that's where I'm at with the whole fucking series.
You do see his helmet
Yes.
in the one episode where it's just like,
Where he's
Like-
making all of her clothes and shit.
yeah, which is a little bit weird because it's not red. Like, it's very much traditionally like a red costume for Daredevil.
Yeah.
It ends up being kind of like this rusty gold colored tan-ish. But it's just like, oh, like I paused the screen when I was watching and I was just like, that's definitely his helmet.
Yep.
So,
Is there any other cameos that you guys know of? I haven't really seen the trailer in a while. I know Daredevil's expected, but is there anyone else? At least for season 1.
Season 1, I can't recall anything.
I don't know, that says just Daredevil.
Yeah, so far they could probably bring in Doctor Strange.
well,
And where does she fit in, Kenny? Do you know? Where does she fit in going forward to the next phase? Is she going to be... I know they have more Avengers movies coming out. So
Yes,
I
so-
assume she's going to be in an Avenger.
yes. So if they end up going down a particular route that they did in the comics, she'll be in Secret Wars, which I believe they're making a film of.
Yep.
Because at the end of that, that's where she joins the Fantastic Four. Other things that She-Hulk is kind of like involved with is that she also joins S.H.I.E.L.D. So you may see her in like the Nick Fury movie if they ever release one.
Well, then he has a show coming out, doesn't he? With Nick Fury. Oh my god! And it has to do with the what are they called? The aliens that can
The Skrull?
Skrull. Yes, the Skrulls. They'll be coming in. Oh, what is that? Yeah, that shit. No, you just had it. It was up there. No, maybe I'm thinking of something else. Anyway, there's a series, or no, it's a no, it's a series. Try and find it.
Yeah, I'll try to find it. Anyways, that was one thing that she's particularly involved with. You do see some of like the reoccurring villains that she's known for, the Wreckers,
Yeah.
which is it's funny to see like this more or less like C tier like villain group be like there. They're the people that you see that have like the Asgardian construction tools that try to mug her for Hulking or the Hulk King or however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah, who the fuck are those people? Do you know, Kenny?
Well, that's basically what they are. They're just kind of like her reoccurring villains. Kind of like Titania. I think Titania is actually the first villain that she fights, if I'm remembering correctly in the comics. So she's like a reoccurring character.
Now, who's after trying to pierce her skin with the needle in the show?
Who's the actor?
No, who is after? Like, remember in the series, they're trying to get through her skin with the needle, or
Yes, that's the Hulk King guy.
Okay, same.
Now, I imagine that's going to be elaborated in these last 2 episodes. So, we'll see where that goes. I know that they have shown off that Daredevil was going to show up in one of these last 2 episodes. Because, naturally, Daredevil also practices law.
Indeed.
So that's why those characters interact and usually are on relatively good terms. So past that point, I'm not sure how I necessarily feel about the first half of the show. I enjoy the She-Hulk and Hulk interactions, like the training sequences that they go through. And then just the realization that both of them can kind of like teach each other things, which the Hulk doesn't want to like really admit that he spent like the last like 15 years trying to figure all this stuff out. And Jennifer just figures it out in like a month.
Yeah.
So yeah, that doesn't bother me. I really enjoyed the first episode, her interactions with Bruce Banner. It was fun banter. It was enjoyable to watch. You know, I know, Colin, you kind of disagree with the ins and outs of like, what the hell? How did she figure it out so quick and this and that? And maybe there's some story behind that in the comic books. But for me, it was just fun to watch. And I think I stand by what I said. Like, even when she was interacting with Wong, that was fun to watch.
Sure.
So I don't know. We'll see once they bring this Hulk King character more into it, I think it'll pick up for me. So I'm hopeful that it's going to be they're going to redeem the show a little bit.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people give the She-Hulk like writers and producers a lot of like grief that she's twerking at the end of that one episode with Megan Thee Stallion. It makes perfect sense because she can break the fourth wall. So why the hell not? Would she not know something that's like a thing in like our world?
Mm-hmm.
Makes no difference. Like hell, if Miles Morales' like favorite like singer is Post Malone, then why can't She-Hulk be a super big fan of Megan Thee Stallion?
Colin's shaking his head.
He's just shaking his head violently at me. He's probably disappointed.
I'm going to continue to watch the show because I'm a fan of Marvel and I'm loyal to the series and everything. And
Well, you almost have to because you know they're going to intertwine She-Hulk with future films, but
yeah,
I just don't think we're not their audience for it. I don't want to say it's a bad show. I think it's fun, entertaining. I don't want to speak for Ken and Colin, but for me, I'm not the audience for some of the.
I'm definitely not the audience, but I'll continue to watch it. I'm loyal. Kenny, what are you bringing up?
Well, other than I guess the general stuff that I've mentioned so far about her powers, her general involvement, there are other instances where she does some crazy stuff in the comic books. She represents like the entire universe as like the lawyer to the Watcher, I believe, and basically has to argue for like the Marvel universe, like her Marvel universe's right to exist against like another universe that like mirrors theirs, but is like the like ultimate Marvel universe or whatever it's called. And it's fun to see how that plays out. Other than that, she kind of goes back and forth between being just somebody that's there for all the other superheroes, but more often it's interesting that she's forced to help the supervillains, or at least how we identify as the supervillains. Like Emil, in particular, was just a soldier following orders that had like a experiment gone wrong that kind of drove him like crazy. So how do you represent a person that has clearly done like a lot of like public damage, potentially have killed a lot of people, but then has done their due process in like the judicial system?
Right.
And how do you represent that correctly? So I think that's pretty solid how they've gone through that. That nobody is particularly left out of like, you know, what is actually allowed to you through like American law.
Don't they say for the Abomination? Don't they say is he wearing something that prevents him from turning back into it?
Yes. So after the fact, they gave him like a little transformation inhibitor thing that I believe Bruce
Is that the same
Banner
as?
worked
Is
on.
that leading toward like X-Men? Isn't that some of that for the mutants?
Not in this particular timeline, because in the MCU, the mutants slash X-Men don't really canonically exist.
Okay.
Although technically Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver that you see in Age of Ultron are mutants because they're Magneto's children. They are just kind of written off as like gifted individuals or enhanced. So that's kind of like the reoccurring thing in that regard.
So basically, she's a lawyer for all, I'll use the word enhanced, individuals.
Correct.
So is there the possibility that she's not only going to represent the good guys, but also villains? And because I kind of feel that vibe that the firm that she works for, she's representing pretty much the whole.
The whole, correct. So,
And so is she going to represent not only good guys, but bad guys, and then maybe be forced into doing something like a particular case that she doesn't want to do, but because she is an enhanced individual, she's going to have to do it?
I think they already kind of done that with Abomination, right?
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
It's
So
kinda
who
beating
else
up
is
her
going to...
cousin.
So what other superheroes, supervillains, sorry, are going to be brought up in a trial, if you will, and be forced to represent?
so I do know that she kind of teams up with Doctor Doom
Okay.
and like representing like her universe's like right to exist, because like like while humanity and all of like the superpowered people tend to lean towards like violence and evil, there is still good, and she kind of helps deliver that point to basically an individual that has the ability just Thanos snap like the universe out of existence. So she makes a good argument. She does make a good argument there. So I guess other random facts, seeing as we're more or less just more, I want to say we're kind of done explaining the show to a degree.
Yeah.
Other things that happens in the comics, she's able to survive a punch from the Hulk straight to the face.
Sure.
And she's like the only one I think that has ever done that wasn't Thor. Because Thor, being a god, has just a lot of innate like durability. But after she gets punched and goes to the ground, the Hulk goes away, and like the final line that she says is, "May God help us all. I could not stop Bruce." So that's fun. Another thing that She-Hulk is kind of known for, and you can't ignore it so much in the show either, is that she's very much always looking to be in like a relationship. More so than like Tony Stark even, because he's kind of hamming it up in the first Iron Man film to a degree. So one of the more notable people that she's been with Tony Stark. She's made a pass at Wolverine before.
Okay. What? Go ahead. I want to know about this.
What?
The passive Wolverine. And the fact that he's coming into the third Deadpool film, by the way.
Fucking love that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that
I'm
should
looking
be
forward to
fun.
that.
But she's made a pass at Deadpool, or no, not pass at Deadpool, pass at Wolverine. But then Wolverine was just like, no, I don't want the Juggernaut's sloppy seconds. She's been with the Juggernaut.
I liked her.
A fun like normal person that she's been with. She's been with J. Jonah Jameson's son.
Oh,
Who
there you
was
go.
actually married for a while. So
Well,
J.
there you
Jonah
go.
Jameson was her father-in-law,
Oh.
which
You think-
makes that really interesting because she has a lot of beef with Spider-Man because he sides with Captain America.
There's no way they're going to
Or
bring that
no,
up.
it's the other way around. My bad.
They're not going to bring that up.
No, they won't. But
I liked her joke that she cracked about Steve Rogers. Bringing up Rogers.
yeah. Well, that was one of the... Going back to the show here, that is something that they do kind of acknowledge, that these writers, just about every episode, other than I think 3 of them, have a different writer involved. So there's different perspectives. They have a general guideline, I imagine, but they bring a different story to it, sitcom-y. So one of the things that they bring up is that they're acknowledging like the random internet threads of, oh, are the Avengers actually paid? Like that was like a legendary like Reddit rant of, does Tony Stark actually pay his employees kind of thing. The other one being, has, Captain America ever had sex? Why that's relevant on the internet, who the hell knows? But people,
When he goes back in time, it's kind of implied.
it's
anyway.
implied, and I think that's why Bruce knows that answer, because he was the only one that was kind of involved in the whole time travel shenanigans that they did back in Infinity War.
Right.
So,
But Captain America, he never has offspring.
no.
I wonder why that is.
I don't believe so, at least. Maybe in the comics, but I didn't keep up too much with Captain America, unfortunately.
It's kind of off topic, but would his genetics as Captain America pass on to his offspring? Or would he just be, offspring be just a normal child?
I don't have a good answer for that, and that would require me to do some research.
Right, that's the
I think
whole...
so.
So,
Doesn't the Hulk have kids?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Why not? Oh my gosh.
Cheers to that.
Here's to that.
Cheers.
Alrighty. Well, gentlemen, I do believe that this show is at least slated to have 2 more episodes. I don't believe it's getting a second season. So, do you have any closing thoughts on what we've seen so far, maybe like where you want to see this series go if it does get a second season. Let's start with Jake.
I don't know if it will get a second season. I'm sure it will, but I'm more looking forward to seeing She-Hulk as part of a larger team, the Avengers maybe. I'm really looking forward to seeing Daredevil make an appearance. I stand by my comments. I'm not the right audience for this show. I think my favorite parts is when Wong was in it, when Bruce Banner was in it. I'm really looking forward to Daredevil. So I think she's going to make a great supporting cast member for future Marvel films. But this standalone series of She-Hulk just doesn't do it for me.
All right, and how about you, Colin? What do you think?
No, he pretty much covered it.
All right. Well, fair enough. So, I want to thank everybody that's been listening to us so far. We appreciate you guys. Hit that like button and subscribe. We do have an Instagram now, Colin being my lovely social media manager over here.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll probably have something fun and dandy up relatively soon. Other than that, we'll keep you guys posted. I think next week we have some more fun plans. In the meantime, I also have something kind of special brewing in the background that will hopefully get done relatively soon.
And
So-
we'll definitely be bringing on some guests for sure. But we will definitely have to approach that situation via Instagram. So keep a lookout on that. Other than that, let's close it out. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you everybody for listening.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Take care.